It's actually crazy, like when you think about it, like how society has completely changed from the time that I grew up, and it's not too long ago. I grew up in, I was born in the late 90s, so I grew up throughout the 2000 era, and I've just seen how society has really become much, much softer in a very cruel world. Not to say cruel like it's a bad thing, but nature is nature, man. Like if you go onto a safari and you watch a lion attacking a zebra, it's cruel, but it's nature. That's just the reality of the situation. There's always gonna be a winner, and there's always gonna be a loser, and we're all winners and we're all losers because one day you might win, one day you might lose, and one day you might lose, and that's the last day you're ever gonna have. So society, like, I go onto YouTube, I listen to these men and women speaking about life and their perspective on life, and I see how soft it is, how much they put on like a victim mindset towards the things that have happened to them. You know, someone will complain that, oh, this person used to bully me, this person used to do this to me. But at the end of the day, if you let that happen to you, then you're partly to blame as well. Because God has given you the physical form and ability to defend yourself. If He hasn't given you that and you're disabled, then that's another case. But if if you have your full physical form, you have all your limbs, you have cognitive reasoning and the ability to think like any other person, then no matter the size of that person and how big they were and the odds of you winning that fight, at the end of the day, it takes two to tango. So when I hear someone complain about bullying, if you let that happen to you, then you're partly to blame because most likely if you defended yourself and showed that person that you didn't like the way that they treated you by retaliating, then it's most likely going to eradicate the situation, and it might not stop the bullying, but it's going to make the bully think twice before they come to you. I told you nature is a savage thing. It's a very savage thing. You see, like I was watching a video of like these zebras crossing the river. You know, when they migrate every single year, they have to do this. They have to cross the river to go to better feeding grounds because the feeding grounds that they're at, they've exhausted them. They need time to replenish. So they embark on a journey, thousands and thousands of miles, going through many, many predators. You know, life just, it created so many things that have the potential to kill you. It's just that in today's day and age, we're so covered from it because we live in our cities and in our towns and in our houses. But these zebras, they embark on a journey, moving through the savannah, hot as fuck, hungry as fuck, and now they have to cross a river that has hundreds of crocodiles just waiting to pick them apart. And it's not like it's just the grown up zebra that has to cross, it's every single zebra. That zebra that was born 2 weeks ago has to fucking cross that river. If it doesn't, it's gonna die, certainly. If it crosses the river, there's a good chance it's gonna die, but it has a slight chance that it's gonna live and it's gonna continue the journey. So when you watch these type of videos, you see the brutal nature of reality, and that this baby zebra, even though it has no chance, you know, it's barely getting its head above the water. It still has to go through the water just to have a chance of survival. And you watch the crocodiles line up and literally just pick them apart. Like there's one specific video that was just so graphic where you literally see the zebra's face ripped off and still alive. It's still crying, but the whole snout is gone, completely gone. It's been crushed and torn off by the crocodiles. And you can hear it crying, and its mother's probably hearing it, but it can't stop. It has to keep going, otherwise it's gonna die as well. And that's just part of life. That's just part of the reality of the situation. So I tell you, on this show, we go through the uncomfortable truths that people don't want to talk about, because those uncomfortable truths hurt. That's why it's the uncomfortable truth, and the truth is always a bitter pill to swallow. So when you see that, that's the nature of reality, and even that zebra, though it's pretty much helpless, still gave a fight till the end. Even after its face was ripped off, it didn't just give up and be like, oh, I'm just gonna get eaten just like that. You could still see it had fight in it. And that's the way we should behave as people. Even when the odds are stacked against you, that's how you should be. That's the mentality you should carry yourself with every single day. Is that no matter how big the obstacle or the person or the animal, you never know on the day, you have to fight till the end, because that's what's in you. That's what you've been given the ability to do. That's your God given ability. You have the means to fight, you have the means to defend yourself. You might not be able to defend yourself effectively, but essentially, you're capable. And over time, as you grow older and older and you keep fighting more and more, you become better, up until one day the bully's gonna leave you alone. Because you see these crocodiles, you see them, they leave the big boys. They don't even try to touch the big boys, because it's not worth it. It's not worth potentially getting harmed, even though still the crocodile is the apex predator. It still has a good chance to take down a bigger male zebra or female zebra. But still, it will go for the younger ones, because it knows that even though it has a high chance of winning there, it's much harder to bully him than to bully the young boys. So even that large male zebra was a young boy at some point, and at some point in its life, it had to cross that river every single year. So when I hear people complaining about the nature of reality, that they are bullies, it's just the way that it is. But you can fend them off, and you can fight, and you can learn to defend yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally. You can learn to brush off remarks, you can learn to brush off comments, and only act accordingly and out of self-defense. Because when you go looking for smoke, best believe you'll find it. And you might come across someone that you think is weak, but in actual fact, that person is just quiet. They're a silent killer, and they just will never let you know that there's that side of them, that their true nature is actually quite violent. So I see a lot of people complain about the trauma that they have in their life, but it's because they have a lack of understanding that that's just the nature of reality. You know, where I come from, coming where I come from, it's a very harsh environment. So when I see this Western society and I see how pussified people have become, it's like it's crazy, man, because they don't understand that your actions do have consequences, and those consequences can be physical at times, and you will go through physical pain. You see people chatting the most online, saying the most shit to people that they know are far from their reach, because they haven't suffered physical consequences. Once you've suffered the physical consequence, you understand that nobody can't get touched. Anybody is touchable. Anybody can be harmed. Everyone bleeds, including yourself. And because of that awareness, you're going to try avoid a physical altercation at all times. You're going to try avoid any altercation, physical, mental, at all times, because you understand that things can escalate and you could always come out the loser, the same way you could come out the winner. But when these men come around chatting their shit with their victim mindset, Just putting the blame on every single other person. It's just crazy for me to think that you can even speak in that tone and not suffer the physical consequences because you've grown up in a society that has given you a blanket, that's given you a blanket and covered you and protected you from everything out there. So they make you think, but in reality they haven't, because when shit gets real and you get exposed, that's when you see someone's true nature, whether they're a fearful person or they have the means to protect themselves. It's only in those moments that you start to see who's really who. Apart from that, we can all talk, we can all act in a certain way, but up until you're acting through your instinct, you don't know who is really who and how deep things can get. So I just see a lot of people coming with that victim mindset, and it disappoints me, man, because I understand that all these people have the capability to go on to the other side and become the victors and not the victims, but they lay blame on other people. People do shit, and they're always gonna do shit to you, man. But you can't keep blaming them, because the more you let them do shit, and then all your only power is to just go and blame them instead of acting upon it and stopping it at that moment in time. I'm telling you now, even if you're a little kid listening to this and there's someone who's doing some shit to you, do something about it. Don't wait for mom and dad to come and save you. Don't wait for the teacher to come and save you, because they most likely won't even save you. They might even blame you for it happening. So I'm telling you, when they say take justice into your own hands, that's exactly what you should do. Never wait for authority to come and help you. Take things into your own hands, take things into your own actions, and suffer the consequences, knowing that it was all in your hands and not in anyone else's. That way, you're not going to blame anyone. The only person you can blame is yourself for not being strong enough. And then you can go and correct that and start to become stronger. Because the society we live in, man, they're pacifying everyone. And when everyone gets pacified, there are a lot of people who are going to be chatting nonsense, chatting shit, because they're not going to suffer the physical repercussions of the words that they use and the way that they act. So for you, as someone who's aware of this now, understand that if someone comes at your throat, you have the right to do something about it and to act in any way that you see fit to diffuse the situation. Whether that means harming another person, whether that means telling them off, just know that you have to take justice into your own hands and act accordingly, because at the end of the day, we live in a nature-based reality, and the reality of nature is that, as beautiful as it can be, when you go into the sunset and you see the sunrise, it can be just as cruel when you watch a pride of lions ripping apart a buffalo limb by limb whilst it's still alive. That's just the nature of it all. TopCat Podcast.